Lightroom where I have imported a couple of the shots from earlier, and I've already gone ahead and I've picked them. I haven't touched them as far as any edits whatsoever. And for this, I'm thinking that I only want to deal with the 2 shots. So I'm going to use this shot here, number 6, to get rid of that highlight here. And I'm going to use this shot, number 3, as my main shot with all 3 products. Okay, and also this is the one where you see we flagged out the background. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Command, I'm going to click on both of these, and I'm going to right click or get to the options and say Edit in. And I don't want to say Edit in Adobe Photoshop 2020, I want to say Open as Layers in Photoshop. And then that'll open right up. And just to let you guys know, I did do a practice run of this, so I do have some stuff on it already open. But let's just go ahead and go in with what we have while it's loading the layers. There we go. Okay, so our top layer is of our finished product, and our bottom layer, background layer, is of what I want to mask in. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the opacity on my top layer here. And that's just because I want to make sure that this is lining up correctly. So what I'll do is I'll zoom in by holding Command and hitting the plus button. And then I'm going to hit V for my move tool. And I'm just going to move this. I'm just going to nudge it with my arrow keys until I get a good point in which these are matching up. All right, now I'm looking here because that's kind of like the sharper, one of the sharper portions of it. I could also use the lettering at the top, but I know it's not going to be perfect because, you know, there's minor vibrations. So because this is all about the label, and it's all I really care about is getting that label lined up. All right, that looks about good to me. So I'm just going to click Mask. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit B for the brush tool, and I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is black and not white. So in order to change that, we're going to hit X. Okay, make my brush size just a tad larger. In fact, let's do this. And make sure that we have a very, very soft brush. And then we're just going to start painting. Oh, actually, we're not going to start painting away. We're going to change our flow down to about 10%. Sure. All right, and then we're just going to very lightly start painting this away. Okay, there we go. That looks good. So we'll hit Command 0 to back out. Notice that I did that with a fairly large brush, very soft, no hardness whatsoever. I'm going to leave this highlight here. You know, I feel like a highlight somewhere is okay. And I do like the clipping of this. Like, this is a pure white. That's fine. Okay. So yeah, that looks really good. That is our merged image. And let's see, one thing that I can do now is I can check levels. So what I'll do is I'll make a levels here. And one thing that I can do with the levels is play around with that. I'll keep the levels there, and then I'll also add in a threshold above. The threshold is going to let me know if I'm on pure black or not around the image. So let's add that in there. There we go. So let's go all the way over. You can see where our pure blacks are. See, if I go all the way over, nothing's pretty much pure black, right? But judging from our inputs, I'd say the threshold level of 10, 9 or 10 is pretty good, right? So what I can do with this is I can then turn that off, right? And because this does not affect your image whatsoever, it's just merely for reference. So I'll keep that at 10 just for my sanity. And I'll come back over here to levels and I'll say for my blacks, make it 10. So yeah, this all has to do with your histogram and your knowledge of the histogram and dealing with lights and darks. Okay, so I'll play around with the highlights just a little bit too. Keep my midtones right where they are. I don't want it any brighter. Definitely want it brighter. Oh, definitely don't want that. Not yet anyway. I'll add my own contrast later. So we'll put this back at 1. Okay. All right, keeping that levels there. So that looks good. Another thing that I want to do, because these colors are very, they're vibrant, but I want them a little bit more vibrant, I will add in a hue saturation. No, add in a vibrance layer. So with this vibrance layer, I kick it up, let's say, till it looks really good. What I'm looking at right now with the vibrance is the ends of, say, this gradient here. Just want to make sure that those are looking really good, and then I'll add in some saturation too. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. Before and after. See those greens come through a little bit better? In fact, just turn that down just a tad. Yeah, definitely more vibrant. Okay, well, that's starting to look good. Now, one thing that I'm noticing here is you see no amount of canned or compressed air on Earth will ever get these plexiglasses clean again. So next step is in Photoshop, we're going to create a new layer by holding down Command, Option, Shift, and hitting N. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit S for my stamp tool, and I'm just going to start cleaning out these. Matter of fact, I'm going to hit J. And what that's going to bring up is first the patch tool, because that was the last tool I used, but I'm just going to hold down Shift and hit J until I get the spot healing brush. And from here, I'll just make it a little bigger and make sure that I sample all layers. And then I'll start taking out these dust spots. Okay, this is starting to look a lot better. Now that we've taken care of all those dusts, let us do one more thing. I want to bring in just a curves adjustment layer on everything. I want to get a good look at my histogram here, and I want to just start brightening up these blacks. If I can, oh no. Sorry about that. There we go. So I kind of want to play with the blacks just a little bit. There we go. I want to make sure that everything that should be black is black. Especially around here. So what I'll do is I'll turn my thresholds back on. Still missing some stuff here. Let's do that. Keep playing with that. Keep playing with that. Keep playing with that. See, we're definitely still missing some stuff. So let me go through here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my brush. I'm going to go back to my brush. I'm actually going to paint on this layer, our dust adjustment layer, as I like to call it. And let me zoom in. And there's still some specks down here that are not pure black, but you know, they're very hard to see. But I do want to take care of them. So what I'm going to do with my brush, I'm going to turn the flow up to about 43. And I'm just going to paint them in. And because I still have the threshold layer on, you see how they're just going away. So now that we have our pure blacks, let's bring that back out. Looking good there. I'm going to go back to our curves and we're going to start playing around with curve a little bit. I definitely want to lighten up the label, so I'll keep the labels bright white. Okay, just a touch. In fact, right there, I really like that. And we'll bring down everything just a tad here. My blacks are good in the midtones. Yeah, just bring the midtones down just a little bit. All right, so with that, I want to play with this curves adjustment mask here because this is still like this was already really bright here, and I don't want to brighten it too much. So what I'm going to do is go take my flow back down to about 10. That's at 9. I want to keep this at a very soft brush. You see the hardness there, and I'm just going to paint black just ever so gently around this area, because I want to keep this detail of this lip here. See the lip? I want to make sure that the detail is there, but I do want to have that very bright. I want your eye to be drawn here and here. So I think that that lip kind of like coming around just adds a little bit more interest into the label. And that looks good. I'm going to make another curves adjustment layer, because one thing that I see is I really want this to be brighter. I want these boxes to be brighter, especially up here. Like nothing I can do about this. There's a little crumple. I could Photoshop it, and we might, but maybe not today. All right, so let's make another curves. And in this curves, I'm just going to bring my whites over. Yeah. I don't want to make it so bright that you can tell that it's like not a box, that you can't tell that it's a box. So it's a little too far, a little too hot. There we go. Come out right there. Just to brighten them up a little bit more. And now this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Command to hit I. And that's going to invert that mask. And then I'm going to hit X to make white my foreground color. And now I'm just going to paint white in this. I mean, I know that there's plenty of easier ways. Matter of fact, I'm just going to let's make my flow 100%. There's easier ways to do this. I know there are easier ways, but that's what I'm doing right now. And that's all right, because there's multiple ways to do multiple things in Photoshop. I'm gonna take the pen tool and I'm gonna make a selection of this shadow here. There are more than enough things out there that will let you know how to use a pen tool. All right, and so here, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to stamp. I'm gonna hit S for my stamp tool. I'm gonna hold down Option. I'm gonna grab a selection of this area just by clicking out here, and I'm just going to paint. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go back down to Layer 1, and I'm going to click a selection, and I'm gonna paint. Notice that here I have it set to current and below. That is actually very important. I'm gonna hit Command D for deselect. And one thing that I do see, normally whenever you make a selection, like your selection outside can get a little harsh, especially to the eye. So, you know, you'll deselect and then just fade in along that line, along that selection. And it just makes it a little easier on the eyes. Okay, I really don't like these, but I'm gonna keep them there. But there is one thing that I noticed, and I see a hair. So I'm gonna hit J for my spot healing brush. I'm gonna take care of this hair. Okay, I'm liking this. So to recap, we've opened 2 images from Lightroom into Photoshop as layers, composited those layers using layer masks, and used the threshold and curves adjustment layers to ensure that our products are sitting on a clean black background. In our next video, we're going to go over how to add a little bit of interest to the product shot using some color gradients as well as some other Photoshop tools. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed the content, and make sure that you're following Cornerstone Captures on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks guys for hanging out in the corner. I'm Cornerstone Captures, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.